Continue Little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, down from the sky, and say by my cradle, the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth, mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. All the nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace, hail the Son of righteousness, light and light to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Lovely his glory by, born that man no more may die. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when He the comfort and joy, all tidings of comfort and joy. Comfort and joy, all tidings of comfort and joy. Tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy, all tidings of comfort and joy.
power and one presence in this universe, and that is God the Omnipotent. We here at Unity honor the many names of and the many paths to God. Will you please join me in our invocation by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore? We are now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. We acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit, and thy divine wisdom. Now erase our mortal limitations, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation our world according to thy perfect law. And our Lord's Prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Will you please sing carol number 286. Oh, come all ye faithful, 286. Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy winter solstice. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. The world celebrates this time of year for new beginnings. The seeds have fallen in the fall. They are now germinating as a new life, unseen, on the ground, and they become fully manifest in the spring as flowers and fruit. And that germinating seed is in all of us. It is germinating as our Christ consciousness, which will later manifest as good works and good deeds and good thoughts, the fruit and flowers of our life. Since the beginning of human time, the winter solstice has marked the end of the ebbing sun and was celebrated as a new beginning. Life is reborn as it's reborn in us. And it seems that every faith and every culture, every being on this planet somehow resonates with that moment when the sun starts coming back. It represents the potential in all of us and on the planet for new beginnings, a new awakening, a new life for you. That time is here for us today, right now. It is the time of our rebirth, of the Christ in us. It is Christmas today. This month, people around the world are celebrating the outer holidays of various different traditions, with various names, of course. So let us remember, though, here at Unity, that the celebration is about the rebirth of our Christ consciousness in us and all that that represents. I speak today of celebrations around the world because most religions that I know deeply revere Jesus and the Christ consciousness that he represents as love, purity, and unity. For example, the great Indian teacher Yogananda spoke a lot about Jesus. In fact, we studied Yogananda's teachings about Jesus the Christ for several years up until COVID, back in the family room at the 9:30 Sunday service. Our class teachers were Unity Board President Bert Lattimore, who's sitting in the back, and his wife, Renee Lattimore, the board treasurer. They were our Sunday school teachers, and we studied Yogananda and how his ideas about Jesus the Christ were so relevant to all of us. In case you missed it in the email, if you're not signed up for email or have been a little busy and haven't read the email, or if you missed the Wednesday morning service, I'd like to share with you the Christmas letter that was sent to us from the Yogananda Center via Unity members, Prue and Michael Kaufman. I share this letter because it so perfectly represents the Unity viewpoint about Christmas and the 5 Unity principles, which are, and watch for them in this letter. I'm not going to stop and say it as we go along, but the first Unity principle, there's only one power and presence in the universe, God the Omnipotent. And the second principle is that divinity is in all of us. The third Unity principle is that we create our world by our thoughts. The fourth Unity principle is the importance of prayer. And the fifth Unity principle is it's not enough to just understand all this. We need to live it. So watch for that as we're reading this. So why don't you follow along with me? We put a copy of Yogananda's letter and all the hymnals. Does everyone have one? I think it'll be more meaningful. Also, so many people ask for copies that we don't just make a copy for everybody today. Yogananda himself, he is taken his life on to another place at this point, but he said at the top, direct quote, Jesus was not sent to us to symbolize an unattainable goal. He came as a living inspiration, demonstrating what we all may successfully seek and achieve. And this Christmas letter, which was sent to all of us from the head of the Yogananda Center, dear one, joyous Christmas greetings to you with divine friendship and love from the ashrams of Paramahansa Yogananda. May your life be freshly illumined by the the soul-awakening revelation of the true meaning of Christmas, the birth within you of the Christ consciousness which was incarnate in the Lord Jesus and is ever shining in all creation as infinite love and divine harmony. Jesus came on earth to set an example of truth, purity, and holiness, not as abstract ideals, but as a powerful evolutionary force that can hasten the universal harmony intended for the human family. In our times when godlessness and unharmony seem all too enabled by human heedlessness of the sacred and divine, let us actively mobilize the realization that within our own immortal souls are all the godly qualities that Jesus possessed. The healing peace and all-encompassing love he so perfectly manifested, his intuitional wisdom and indomitable faith, daily renewed by meditative communion and constant oneness with the eternal Father. These radiant sources of light and strength are also to be found in the silent depths of your own being, waiting only for you to set them aglow by willingness and spiritual enthusiasm. It takes courage to live as did Jesus, as did Christ and all the great ones, expressing unconditional love for all, servicefulness and forgiveness, one-pointed loyalty and devotion to God. And yet to live that way bestows all fulfilling joy and awareness of our own unconquerable sacred essence. Each time we strive to give understanding and heartfelt compassion to others, each time we reach out with any of the divine qualities that represent the best within us, we are truly celebrating the spirit of Christmas. Christ consciousness is being born in us. At Christmas time, divine grace and special vibrations of Christ's love emanate from the higher realms, permeating the consciousness of all who are receptive. This heavenly outpouring enables us to meditate more deeply, offering our souls love and devotion with ever greater resolve at the feet of God and Christ. As you enjoy with loved ones the festive outer activities of this Christmas season, and also observe the inner celebration of Jesus' birth in deep meditation, may you feel the whispers of Christ consciousness ever reminding you of your blessed oneness with Spirit, bringing joy to the world and to your own home and family. Unceasing blessings in God, Christ, and gurus. Brother Divinity. So, how do we live what the letter describes as Jesus the Christ's life? That's the big question. How do we demonstrate that truth, purity, and holiness that Yogananda and Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore and most spiritual teachers have taught us is the way to manifest heaven on earth in our lives, that peace, joy, and feeling of unity that we all crave. How do we do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. To answer this question, let's review the highlights of last week's lesson briefly about the metaphysical meaning of the biblical Christmas symbols. For example, Jesus' mother, Mary, represents purity in the Christ story. She symbolizes the pure vessel. She made of herself a pure vessel. That's what she was, so that Christ could be born through her, through purity. Mary's purity and goodness enabled her to understand higher truths and therefore bring forth that Christ consciousness in her life. And that is also the case with us. When we purify ourselves, we're able to attain and channel the higher levels of life, which remain a mystery to most people. People without that level of purification, that commitment to letting go and letting God, which means letting go of their ego and letting the ego run their lives, those people who do let their egos run their lives, which is all of us most of the time, can't see that level of life. And we can't attain it either when we're going on automatic. King Herod is the symbol of the ego in the Bible. He couldn't see the eastern star, if you remember from the story, that led the three wise men to the Christ. One of the most important characteristics of purity, you might ask yourself, I did, well, really, what is purity? It's not letting our vanity and our ego trick us into thinking we're separate or better than anyone. We are all one in the eyes of God. We are like a prism. I was trying to think of a symbol, and I thought it's like a prism. We're all like a prism, one big prism reflecting God's light in myriad different ways and intensities and colors, but we're all one big crystal prism. Love and humility are the characteristics of a pure heart. Thus, our Mary purity, our inner Mary, makes possible our birth to Christ consciousness. When we don't feel separate from others and we don't feel separate from God, when we let go of our childish desire that we all have to be right or first or better, when we quit succumbing to our ego's desires, our inner Herod's desire to be separate because we want to be better than others, that purity and humility enable us to bring forth a new life, a new us, a Christ being. That's how we birth the Christ, like Mary through her purity birthed Christ. After we have activated the Mary purity part of ourselves, we then need to protect that level of consciousness from worldly contamination. And I know you all know what I'm talking about there. It's everywhere. TV, other people, songs, you name it. It's that contamination is everywhere. It reinforces the ego. How do we do this? How do we protect this inner purity once we have brought it out in us? We do this with our wisdom and our understanding of truth and what is really important in life. And that wisdom and understanding are represented in the Bible metaphysically by Mary's husband, Joseph, who protects her. Our inner Joseph, or our inner wisdom and understanding, guard our purity and repel these worldly influences and worldly thoughts when they come in. The joining or marriage of Mary's purity and her husband Joseph's wisdom ensured the birth of the Christ. In us too, our inner purity, protected by our inner wisdom and understanding, brings about the birth of our Christ consciousness in our lives. King Herod wanted to do away with Jesus, remember? Metaphysically, King Herod is our ego, the part of us that wants to totally destroy our unity, oneness with others and with God. Our inner King Herod wants to be king over others, superior to others. But King Herod couldn't see the eastern star that was in the sky that the other three wise men could see and that led them to Jesus. Our ego cannot see or understand higher wisdom. It just can't. That's the nature of the ego. Our ego, our inner Herod, is narcissistic, and that precludes comprehending truth, which is the wisdom of the ages, Christ consciousness. Unfortunately, that seems to be the ego's karma. It just can't understand the higher truths. It doesn't realize that everything and everybody out there that it's competing with really is itself. We're all one. It's like our heart waging war on our lungs and then killing the whole organism. The oneness of all life is anathema to the ego. It wants to one-up everybody else, and so doing, it kills the organism, the true life that it is. So, why would you want to develop your inner Mary purity and wed this purity to your inner Joseph wisdom? Why wouldn't you want to just be like the hordes of humanity out there who let their heritage run their lives? Why would we want to swim upstream in the river of life? Answer, so that we can give birth to our inner Christ and manifest the peace and love and unity and the fulfilling life that walks above the worldly chaos and emotional stress, like Jesus did when he walked on water. Metaphysically, the symbol of the water symbolizes emotions. Jesus walked above all that chaos, and we can too. And that's why we would want to give birth to our inner Christ. To me, Course in Miracles guru Marianne Williamson, author of the mega bestseller Return to Love, which I know a lot of you all have read, poignantly answers that question of why we would want to birth the Christ in us. She says, and I quote, "Our species is in trouble. We fight ourselves, we fight each other, we fight our planet, and we fight God. This is threatening to our planet and our own individual survival. A thoroughly loving person is like an evolutionary mutation." I love that, an evolutionary mutation. A being that puts love first, thus creating the context in which miracles occur. Ultimately, that's the only smart thing to do, she says. It's the only orientation in life which will support our survival. And I might add here and emphasize that she's not only talking about the survival of the planet, she's talking about our individual survival in this chaos and stress that seems to be everywhere, in this fighting. Everybody's, Democrats are fighting Republicans, and everybody's fighting somebody. And we've got to do something about it, or none of us are going to survive, because that chaos just multiplies itself. So, as evolved beings, we want to survive. We want to be capable of enjoying the peaceful, joyful, meaningful, healthy life that we were all meant to live. We weren't meant to live this way with everybody fighting against everybody. And I'm sure a lot of Christmas dinner tables are going to see that this year, as they do every year. Even families can't agree on things. Marianne says, the true journey of life is to return to our core goodness. That is our Christ consciousness or love. That's what we all are, even if we forget it. And I know we all forget it during the day. So what is Christ consciousness? Ultimately, what is it? It is love. The love or divinity that is in every single one of you and in me. Sometimes it's covered over in certain times of the day or certain situations. Sometimes it's forgot. That's my big thing. Sometimes it's programmed otherwise, but it's always there, ready to guide, nurture, and protect us. So, how can we give birth to that state of love consciousness, that Christ consciousness within us? Have you ever wondered about that? Really? How do we do it? I think there are 2 steps. It's pretty simple. 2 steps, right? And the first step is to make the decision and the commitment to do so. Make the inner commitment. Make that decision. It sounds simple, and it is, but we must do this. Commit to birthing the Christ in us. That's the first half of it. That is 50% of it. We have to commit to it. Done. And secondly, then there's the second half of it, of birthing this Christ consciousness, which is the hardest to actually do. We must keep reminding ourselves all day long, constantly, that we have made the commitment. Maybe we have to remind ourselves every half hour. I do. This is how we feed the lamb in us, the higher self, and let the wolf, the lower self, die. You know that old question we ask often in here. How can we know if the lamb or the wolf in us is going to survive? You all know the answer now. Which one's going to survive? The one we feed, right. So how do we know if our inner Christ or our inner Herod will survive? The answer is the one we feed. So feed your lamb. Feed your higher self its daily bread by constant reminders of your spiritual path. We fall asleep. The Bible says many times, I was going to count them up for you, but I didn't quite get through it, but it says many times, wake up, wake up. Why do you think the Bible says that so much? Because we fall asleep all the time. We go on automatic is what happens. And when we go on automatic, our ego or our inner Herod starts taking over. It's an old habit. It's kind of like a blackout for alcoholics. They may go for days. I know you all know about this. Or they don't know or remember what they've done. They maybe wake up in Las Vegas married to some stranger they've never seen. We too have spiritual blackouts where we forget who we are. We forget what our spiritual aim is. This happens to me every single day. I say my prayers in the morning. I make my spiritual commitment. I vow to commit and recommit to God every half hour, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I vow that every morning at 7:30 a.m. And at noon, I'm hearing myself say to one of my high school French students, "Tais-toi," which means shut up. And I realize that I've been in a spiritual blackout all morning. My ego said that. I didn't say that. Now, granted, Johnny doesn't take that quite so seriously because probably he doesn't even know what tais-toi means, or if he does, it just doesn't have the same bite as shut up. But I know what it means, and I know what it meant to me when I said it. Maybe I would have said it anyway, like Jesus overturning the tables and the money changers' tables in the temple. But the point is, I had remembered my spiritual commitment from 7:30 until noon. I was going on automatic, meaning my conditioned self is running my classroom. So today, we're going to talk about tools to help us avoid that state of spiritual blackout or sleep in our busy day, when our inner Herod or ego will step right in, take over, and end up causing us a lot of grief. One tool is to commit, as I mentioned, to saying that every half hour. Dear God, I recommit to you, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Now that doesn't take very long, does it? But it wakes you up. If you were alone, you might even want to put your hands together when you say it. Dear God, I commit to you, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Or if there are people around and you remember, you might want to just briefly close your eyes for the 5 seconds or 10 seconds that it takes to say that. Maybe just put your hand on your heart. Nobody will really notice. The big question is, how can we remember in the course of our busy days in a secular world to do this, to remember our commitment to our spiritual path? There are tools like the one I just shared. Another tool is to use everything in your life, all the physical things out there, as a reminder. That way life is one big spiritual school. For example, as we said last week, your daily shower can serve as a baptism, a purification ritual every morning. Your meals, the food, can represent building blocks for your inner cathedral. Every person you meet can represent a manifestation of God. When you encounter each person, think to yourself, Namaste. I salute the God within you. Namaste. In one spiritual group I was in, we were given a different number every few days. And every time we saw that number out there, it would wake us up to our spiritual goal. I remember one time the number was 33. And it is amazing when you are really committed to that. You see 33 on license plates, on homes, the numbers. It's 2933 Peniston or something. You see it on receipts for things you buy or at a restaurant. You see 33 all over the place. So that way you're letting the outer world wake you up. It's a great tool. It's now the Christmas season, so you might use some of the Christmas symbols that are all over the place now as a reminder. For example, let's start with the holiday wreaths. You've got them all over here. Have you really noticed them? Whether it's a wreath in church, like these you see here, or an Advent wreath on a coffee table, or maybe a wreath on somebody's front door. You see those all over driving down the street. They have one consistent quality. They are round. The circle, of course, represents that which is never ending, never beginning, eternal, God. So that each wreath you see out there reminds you of God, the eternal, unending power and love of the universe. Let it remind you of your path and wake you up. There's a wonderful definition of God that says, God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere. That is, by the way, the Unity First principle. So that wreaths out there wake you up to your spiritual path every time you see one. Secondly, an earthly symbol might be food, like we talked about. That's easy because we see an abundance. Today you're going to see an abundance, some of you, of food. Let food remind you that God's very nature is that of abundance. And so rather than having the buffet table represent extra calories and fat that you've got to avoid, why not let it represent the absolute abundance and variety in the universe that is always, always available to us if we would just open up our minds to it. Let it be a symbol that is always available, a symbol of God's universe. Let the physical nature of food also represent the building blocks for your inner cathedral, like we talked about before. So, let food be another reminder of your spiritual path, that you're on the spiritual path. Third, there's the outward symbol of gifts. Perhaps you can let presents remind you of gratitude, the gratitude that you have for so much in your life, especially understanding the eternal wisdom, that eastern star in the sky, that eastern star of truth. Your inner wise men are capable of understanding this great wisdom of the ages. I am so grateful for that. What if every time you saw a gift, you said a word of thanksgiving for all the blessings in your life, like your understanding of the eternal wisdom that very few can understand? And let that feeling of gratefulness remind you of your spiritual path. Again, wake up, wake up. Fourth, there's the outward symbol of Santa Claus, Mr. Secular Christmas himself. You'll still see all those around. Gimme, gimme, gimme. What spiritual concept could Santa possibly symbolize for us? Well, when an innocent child who believes in Santa writes out her little Christmas list and mails it off to the North Pole, or maybe goes to the mall to give it to Santa personally, what is her mindset? It's one of trust. Trust is that she's requesting an item and she has trust that she will receive it on Christmas morning. What if we used the outward Santa Clauses that we see all over the place, hanging in ornaments on trees in people's front yards? Use these Santas as wake-up calls to trust in the universe and God and the eternal laws. And again, our commitment, wake-up call, our commitment to them. Charles Fillmore wrote in his book, Prosperity, if you say and believe, I have faith in the substance of God working in and through me to increase and bring abundance into my world, your faith will start to work in your mind substance. And when you believe in abundance, you will attract it to you. Yes, we can use every Santa out there as an inner reminder of our commitment to innocent faith in universal good for ourselves and others. Faith in the working of the eternal laws on our planet. Faith that the universe is always, always conspiring for our good if we'll just let go of all the negativity. A fifth symbol that we can use as an outward reminder of our inner commitment to our spiritual path is the candle. Look at these candles right here. You see candles all over this time of year. It doesn't matter what kind of candle it is or where the candle is. All candles emit light. Light. It doesn't symbolize light. A candle is light. And so are you. Remember that. You are the light of the world, in human form, a channel for God's light. The wick, you ever thought about it? The wick, which runs through the center of every candle, could be thought of as representing the Spirit in you, the presence of God found at the very center of your being. That is the second unity principle. God is in all of us. Every candle must have a wick, or it isn't a candle. And you too have divinity within you. The wax of the candle on the outside represents our physical form. Candles, of course, come to in many colors and shapes and sizes and heights, as do we. And of course, the illuminated wick, which is the same regardless of its shape, size, color, can represent the Christ light that we all are. So every time you see a candle, and notice especially these today, carry it with you in your mind's eye. Let it remind you of the second unity principle, which says that the spark of divinity is in all of us. Marianne Williamson said, and I quote, God is the electricity, and we are the lamps of the world. Lamps without electricity cast no light, and electricity without lamps cast no light either. Together, however, she says, they cast out all darkness. As you light your small candle this morning, from the large one in the center here that represents Christ, let it remind you that you are the light of the world, the Christ. Let it be a reminder today, your reminder of your spiritual commitment. Remember, that's half of the birthing of the Christ consciousness, is making that commitment. And you have an opportunity today to make that commitment. Bottom line, today, that Christ will be born in you. Love and peace will be reborn in you. Make that commitment now. Then throughout the week and the year, use all these outward symbols, the ones mentioned today, and you come up with your own. Use them to remind you constantly of your commitment. So today, you'll come light your candle, which represents your recommitment to your spiritual path, to let the Christ consciousness be born in you today. I now invite you to participate in this walking meditation. As you're walking down here, be very conscious of every step you take. Where is your big toe? Where is your left arch? Be very meditative, very conscious. No eye contact with others, just you and God. Walking meditation.